Hey, what's up, block shoppers and cool betters? What happened at Huss here? And Dusty kicking it in Switzerland, calling the Spengler. It's not his fault that Canada's out and did not play very well and only scored 4 goals in 3 games. That being said, we cannot get into week 17 without hitting the picks. And hey, with Dusty on the road, who else would be a better tag team partner than one half of the world-renowned Doha double from Qatar, my guy, Jake Bowen-Moss. JBM, what is up, man?
Yeah, not only am I the number one pick you got here, but I think I'm your only pick this week, Huss. Everyone seems to be on vacation, like you said. Dusty is out in Davos, so it's me and you, pal. It's me and you.
Well, listen, I'm fired up, and you were the first round pick because not only do we have to get to, let me just tweet this out. Not only do we have to get to week 17 of the National Football League, but we are right in your wheelhouse right now because we've got bowl games coming up, big ones, national semifinals. Just quickly before we get to the NFL, how have you enjoyed bowl season? Have you continued the hot picks that you and Pat dropped for us throughout the regular year?
Yeah, it hasn't been as hot. Those picks had a pretty good end of the season. I think we won 4 of our last 5 or something crazy like that. And it's been solid. I bet every bowl game. My buddy and I decided we were going to bet every single one. So I think I'm up to 28 picks now, 15 and 13. So I'm above 500. It's nothing to call home about, but it's been a good season of college football and probably the only sport I'm up in across the board, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm looking forward to getting some of your insight at the end of the program. We'll dive into the NFL first. And full disclosure, everybody, I was at the arena last night watching the Jets and Canucks, so I only saw most of the fourth quarter of the Tennessee-Dallas game. But I'm sure if there was a better Thursday nighter to miss, I'm not sure that it could have been better than last night, considering the bizarre circumstances around this game and really a couple games this week, Jake, in that this game, week 17, does not matter for the Titans or the Jags. They're going head-to-head in week 18 for the AFC South crown, which made for a bizarre scenario this week where Derrick Henry was benched and even Malik Willis. Listen, I'm not sure that they took a step back at the quarterback position yesterday. You can maybe speak to it, but a rather forgettable Thursday nighter, but a really strange situation that affected both last night's game and, of course, this Jags-Texans game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it, to be honest with you, when I was talking with some buddies, and I'm like, well, doesn't Tennessee still need to win? But I guess they don't. They don't need to win until the final week. So they almost use their usually week 18 or the final week of the season is the rest week. They kind of used week 17 as their rest week. And they're like, all right, all hands on deck, whatever we got, we're going to give to Jacksonville and try to make the playoffs. I mean, do we really think Tennessee's going to do anything once they get there, even if they do happen to beat Jacksonville in week 18? I'd say probably not. But I guess making the playoffs is still a big achievement for the club. So I don't know.
The people that really got screwed were fantasy owners in the finals that have Derrick Henry.
Absolutely.
I mean, the entire reason that you have your finals the week before the final week is that, often you'll have guys that get sat. I can't ever remember a scenario where players were being rested in the second last week of the season to play in the final week. But that is where we are at. And we'll get to this Jags-Texans game because it's actually interesting. Dusty and I getting into the picks are on opposite sides of it. Really interesting slate of games, though. Finishing up with this Monday nighter, which honestly, one of the games of the year. I mean, I think most of us would agree. You've got 3 elite teams in the AFC right now, all vying for that number 1 seed in the bye in the first round. Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. The Chiefs have the Denver Broncos, or what's left of the Denver Broncos this weekend. But man, that Monday nighter, Jake, is that is what primetime games were meant to be. And we've had some duds recently, but we're getting the main event coming up on Monday.
Yeah, Bills Bengals. That one, I don't even know. You can't be more excited about a game like that. And finally, we get some sort of primetime game that you can really look forward to. I feel like you said, there's been so many duds this season, especially those Thursday night games have been so bad. And Sunday nighters I find have been pretty good. But then we get into Monday. We've been running those snooze fest promotions. It feels like they win every single week. I'm like, we got to stop running these. Those exclusives just keep winning. Yeah, if anyone hasn't checked those out, we do Thursday night snooze fest usually and Monday night snooze fest, and with the over 3.5 field goals, which you know is your favorite primetime prop, you and Patty, and then the under in the game. I don't know. They've hit at like a historic rate. I should go back and kind of check when we started those and see how good they've really been.
Well, I mean, often when we get tons of field goals, that means there's not a lot of touchdowns. And listen, there's been some juicy numbers on those exclusives as well. It's, I mean, obviously, folks, you know that we're always playing over at Coolbet. Make sure to check the exclusives. That's also where you're going to be able to check out the partner parlay, which we've cooked up. But let's get into the picks first. I've got Dusty's picks. Obviously, he's still on the case, even though he's out in Switzerland. And let's start off with this game, Jake, because it's kind of interesting. We're on opposite sides of this, Dusty and I, and we're going to get to this this Houston-Jacksonville game. Dusty had gotten it at Jacksonville at -4.5. That number is now at 4, and I'm on the Texans side. And just from my perspective, the Texans have been playing some actually really good football over the last little bit. I mean, listen, they had no business getting the Chiefs to overtime, but they did. We saw what they had done the week before. And then last week, as an underdog, they go in and beat the Tennessee Titans. Here's the thing. You combine with the direction that Houston's going, they want to win if they can. I mean, they're pretty much locked in on that number 1 overall pick. I mean, they're already playing for next season. We've seen some young players step up. We've seen Davis Mills get it going a little bit. But the other side of it is, I mean, if Tennessee was resting guys, like how much did the Jacksonville Jaguars even want to win this game? I mean, I think I'd have confidence with Houston being at home, taking the points and hoping for a close game with the way that Houston's been trending over the course of the last month or so. But when you combine the situation, the fact that it's all about week 18, not week 17, I had a hard time not taking the points with a home dog.
Yeah, and I know I'm supposed to play the role of Dusty here, and I should be trying to push a little bit back on the Jacksonville side, but I tend to agree with you. I think this Houston team is better than their record presents, and obviously, like you said, they're pretty locked into that number 1 overall pick. So I think they're just kind of playing for next season, and a lot of these guys, and I obviously don't know what the contracts look like and stuff, but a lot of these guys near the end of the season want to play to show, hey, like I want a contract next year, whether it's with Houston or whether it's somewhere else. And like, I think this is always a funny thing to say, but these guys get paid to play football too, right? And like you mentioned, maybe we only see Trevor Lawrence for half of the game. Like you never really know with the scenario that was played out yesterday with the Titans, and the Jags might look at it the exact same way. Like, all right, we don't want to risk any of our big names getting injured and not being ready to go, because I think Jacksonville, like I said, Tennessee, I don't expect them to make noise in the playoffs, but I think Jacksonville, if they find a way in, I think that's a team that actually could make a little bit of noise in that super wild card weekend. I think that talent is been pretty impressive, especially the last, I don't know what, 6-7 weeks here.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they've been really competitive. They've been giving good teams a run for their money. So, and listen, I think I've been really impressed with what Jacksonville's done as of late. And will they try to keep the momentum going? I'm sure, but at what cost right now? So that was the one game that we were on opposite sides for obvious reasons. We took that one and we kept it out of the partner parlay. We'll go through the rest of Dusty's picks right now and kick around these games. Miami +3, and I wanted to get this one with you because you, of course, being a card-carrying member of the Patriots Nation, it's sort of crazy what's happened with that club over the course of the last week. I mean, ever since the infamous play against the Raiders, and listen, they had a terrible first half, but I mean, a pretty ballsy comeback that fell short with the Stevenson fumble late in the game, where they almost erased that 22-point deficit against the Cincinnati Bengals. So let me ask you, Jake. I mean, you know this team quite well. What do you expect from the Patriots going into this week?
I don't know what to expect anymore, Huss. This team has been driving me nuts. And the fact that I continue to turn these games on, and like the Bengals game looked like it was over in the first half, and I'm like, oh God. And then they start to come back, and I'm getting excited, and I'm like, oh, they can't be stopped. Look at them go. And then of course, another just late choke or whatever. And you can still see like that Raiders thing. It's haunting them a little bit right now. And I think there's a scenario where I think that they win the next 2 weeks, they're in, but you got to beat Miami and then Buffalo. I think in Buffalo, I'm expecting to go to that game with some buddies. So I'm sure that'll be just an absolute thrill ride. But yeah, the line's fishy. Like this is one of those ones where you say, oh, fishy line of the week, but it's not Tua, right? It's Teddy. So that probably makes probably makes quite a difference. But still, those skill guys from Miami have been just absolutely killer, especially Waddle and Hill. And if Teddy can find a way to get those guys the ball, I think they can really eat up the Patriots defense, even though that has been the bright spot of the team. I don't know what I want anymore. I think I actually wouldn't mind them losing this game, knowing that next week doesn't matter. And you get the draft pick and you kind of start to build it up a little bit. You need to get rid of Matt Patricia. Clearly, that guy cannot call offensive plays. You need to clean house a little bit on the offensive side of the ball and help Mac Jones out a bit. I know there's some rumors. I think the Alabama OC might be in talks. Like, does he come?
That's Bill O'Brien, right? Who, of course, has a big history with the Patriots.
Right, and he has history with Belichick, and I think he was probably the OC there when Mac Jones was there, right? So you look at that, it's like, oh, that could be fun, but it's all just rumors at the moment. I'd be fine losing this game, but yes, the line is like, it looks like the Pats probably end up winning this one, and it does come down to the Buffalo week where I'll be in the stadium, get my heart ripped out to not make the playoffs. Do I want this team to make the playoffs, though, Us? Like, is that what I want?
Listen, I mean, when you think about the teams that are right there, I mean, it would be at Miami's expense right now. And I mean, obviously, what's happened with the Dolphins and, first things first, I mean, you got to just feel for Tua. I mean, what a brutal season he's had when it comes to the injuries and concussions. And like most people, I was watching that game. I didn't notice anything other than the picks he was throwing in the fourth quarter. Then when you go back and check the tape, you realize that he did take a pretty bad headshot, and I don't think it's possible to not think that he wasn't affected by that. And that obviously had a big outcome for the game. But listen, Tua Tagovailoa should not be starting this week and probably for the rest of the season. And this is going to be on the shoulders of Mike McDaniel. What can he get out of Teddy Bridgewater? And can he game plan and scheme to continue to get the ball into Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's hands? And listen, I think that he can do that. That's why I think this is going to be a competitive game. And I don't mind Dusty's pick, the +3 on the Miami side.
Yeah, I mean, I think McDaniel's clearly shown he's a great offensive mind. Like I said, the Patriots are kind of self-destructing now anyways. And a loss here, that's the season. So I don't know. The Patriots might play a little desperate, but at the same time, it's like, what are you getting up for at this time? You're going to beat Miami, then you got to go to Buffalo, try to beat them, and then you're going to see one of what? KC, Cincy, or Buffalo in the wild card as the 7th seed. It's like we saw what happened last year when they had to go play Buffalo in Buffalo. I think Buffalo scored on every drive. I don't think they punted in the game. Right? So
yeah, no punts.
Not something I'm really excited
off, punter.
Pardon?
The punter can just take the day off.
Yeah, just take the day off. Score on every single offensive drive, and it's like, oh, this defense can stop Josh Allen. No, they can't. They've struggled against mobile quarterbacks all season. And for the last couple seasons, it feels like Belichick just doesn't know what to scheme against these mobile QBs. So, yeah, I don't mind the pick. Obviously, I don't ever fade the Patriots, but maybe I should probably start.
Dusty's next pick is Baltimore -2.5. This is, I mean, another great game. This is the Sunday nighter now. It has been flexed. They've moved the Rams Chargers back to 325. Pittsburgh, a 2.5-point underdog at Baltimore, one of the great rivalries in the National Football League over the past couple decades. And, a big game for these teams. The crazy thing about the Ravens, and we're hearing more and more, that Lamar Jackson didn't get his contract. He hasn't been extended right now, and I'm not sure how hard he's grinding to try to get back right now. In some ways, depending on who you listen to, there's somewhat of a standoff right now. Bottom line is they'll go with Huntley, it looks like, in that game against, Kenny Pickett and the Steelers. Dusty's on Baltimore -2.5. I had a real tough time on this game and really stayed away from it, Jake, because I think there's reason to believe that the Steelers, after that big win, could actually get a win. And if they do, I think all things are on the table when it comes to that final wild card spot right now. And listen, the Baltimore Ravens, for the record that they have right now, especially without Lamar in there, tough team to really count on. That's why this was a stay away for me, but interested in your thoughts on Dusty taking the Ravens -2.5.
Yeah, I think that's probably the side I would lean. It is one of those games, though, with these two teams and how big the rivalry is. It's like a throw out the record books. Like, doesn't matter where they are in the standings.
Throw out the rule book.
yeah. It's gonna get messy for sure. But I think just how emotional that win was last week for Pittsburgh at home against the Raiders. They come back. It was the Franco Harris retirement ceremony, and he
Yeah.
had just passed, and like a very emotional moment. Now they got to travel to Baltimore in a season where they're not going to the playoffs, and the Ravens are a team that is set up to be in the playoffs, and whether it's going to be good for them, like you said, the Lamar situation is super interesting. But I think it is one of those games where the Ravens, maybe it's close in the beginning, but I think in that second half, the Ravens kind of pull away, take care of business, and like you said, you're getting about a field goal. I think if that number's 4.5, maybe you're a little bit more concerned. But at 2.5, I don't mind that pick on the Ravens side, especially at
All right.
home.
Dusty's final pick is the Packers -3, and he got this at a good time because the line has now moved to 3.5. Everyone's been calling the Vikings frauds all season long. All they continue to do is win games and win close games. These teams haven't met since week 1 of the season. If you recall, that was the game where Christian Watson dropped a sure touchdown on the first play of the game. Justin Jefferson went crazy for 9 catches, 170 plus yards, and 2 touchdowns. And we sort of saw the start of that run that the Vikings have had. I'm still not completely convinced on the Packers, to be honest, but here we are, Jake, with 2 weeks left in the regular season. The Packers potentially could run the table and get into the playoffs. And a hot Packer team at the end of the year, I think, would make the 2 or 3 seed kind of nervous in the NFC right now. That being said, I still think that the Minnesota Vikings are sort of being disrespected. And frankly, I think they're used to it right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've been disrespected all season long. I don't know. I think I'm a little biased. I listen to Pardon My Take pretty frequently, and Big Cat is all but certain that the Packers will be in the playoffs, and he's totally convinced me. I think this is a scenario where Rodgers, they pick up a big win last week against Miami, and like you said, obviously that there were some effects going on with Tua late in that game, and it just feels like they're rolling now. I don't think we'll see Christian Watson drop another sure touchdown. He seems to kind of be coming into his own as we near the end of the season here. And I mean, at Lambeau, right? Do I have that right?
Yeah.
At Lambeau,
The frozen tundra.
3.5 is a little concerning. That half does concern me a bit. If it's me, I'd probably buy it down to the 3. Is that what you said? Dusty got the number?
Dusty's on it at 3. I mean, it's been 3 most of the week. And right now, even the 3.5 is -104 for the Packers. I mean, if you do want to get 3, you're paying -118. So that number is certainly there, and it's not too bad. I'm looking forward to this game. As I said, this wasn't a game that I had a big, strong lean on. I mean, I think I give maybe the Vikings more credit that I think they deserve, frankly, than a lot of others do. That being said, what's happening with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers right now, I can't disagree with Mr. Cat. I do think that they're running right now, and it wouldn't at all surprise me to see them win this game, although I could see this being close, and that's why I stayed away. But there you go with Dusty's picks. Jacksonville -4.5, Miami +3, Baltimore -2.5, and Green Bay -3. Now to mine, we mentioned I do like Houston. Justy and I are going head-to-head on that Houston-Jacksonville game. Got it last night at +4. And as they say, I'm just not sure what we're going to get from Jacksonville. And to be honest, I think the Texans maybe deserve a little more credit for the way they played over the course of the past month. Moving on, let's go to the Chicago Bears and the Detroit Lions. And we've talked a lot about the Lions. They have been darlings of bettors. They were killing it in the first half of the season, covering the spread. And then that was even when they were losing, and then they went on this great run. That being said, they ran into a brick wall last week, and that was the Carolina Panthers rushing game. And listen, as much as I want to give Carolina a ton of credit for the way they ran the ball, and they absolutely deserved it, that was one of the most atrocious defensive performances I have ever seen by the Detroit Lions. And listen, could they and should they win this game? Yeah. But, I mean, the one thing that Justin Fields and the Bears seemingly can do is run the football. So for the Lions to be laying 6 points at home right now, that is not a number I can get behind. And listen, it's a big divisional game. We've seen how weird things can happen, and underdogs play close, tight in those divisional games, especially in a division like the NFC North. So to me, 6 points, I couldn't bet this one fast enough, to be honest with you. And listen, I mean, I'm hoping Detroit wins this game, and I'd still love to see them make the playoffs. And obviously it would set up a Detroit Green Bay game in week 18, likely determine who's going into the playoffs. That being said, I don't trust the Lions enough, especially after what we saw last week, to be laying that sort of points against anyone, even the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I bet you Lions fans probably feel the same way, and I bet you they're super pessimistic because of the history that they do have. I could definitely see this being one of those games where the Lions lose outright to the Bears. Like one of those ones where it's like the Bears have been threatening to win a game for the last, I don't know, 7-8 weeks, and this ends up being the one. And the Lions, all that momentum they had, and it was like, oh, they're gonna make the playoffs, and then it just goes. And it's the Bears winning like on like a miraculous, like something crazy at the end of the game, like a
80-yard rush by Justin Fields.
Fields rushing all the way to the house. So yeah, it's definitely a scenario. I think 6 is a lot. That does seem like you said the number, and it seems like too many points. So the Bears have been threatening to win a game, but like I said, for the last 6-7 weeks, and I wouldn't be surprised if they take this one outright. I might do a sprinkle on that money line, that Bears money line.
Well, and we'll touch on this game a little bit more with an adjusted line when we get to the partner parlay in just a second. So Houston +4, Chicago +6, and I'm taking points in another game. And this is one of the most fascinating scenarios in the entire Week 17 lineup. And that, of course, is what's left of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady taking on the upstart Carolina Panthers. We just talked about running roughshod all over the Detroit Lions last week. This game could very well determine who makes the playoffs in that NFC South. If Carolina wins, they'll have the inside track, they'll have the tiebreaker, and they'll have their destiny in their own hands. Tampa can all but win the division with a win against the Carolina Panthers. And listen, I know, and regular longtime listeners who go, here goes Huss again, picking against Brady. I could not be less impressed with what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been so far this season. I mean, Tom Brady had to outlast Trace McSorley in overtime last week. The Arizona Cardinals are an absolute disaster. It's just weird. They fired Matt Rule. They traded Christian McCaffrey. They cut Baker Mayfield. And all of a sudden, they're playing their best football of the entire year. And there's a lot of guys right now, much like we talked about Houston, of guys sort of playing for next year. I think there's a lot of guys playing for Steve Wilks because the job he's done right now in Carolina, I think, indicates that there's a very good chance he gets to keep the head coaching job moving forward. I have a hard time laying points with Tampa against anybody right now. And I got to tell you, the Panthers right now have a ton of momentum, and they're not going to fold in the last 3 minutes like some of Tampa's opponents have done over the course of the last month when Tom Brady's had some pretty miraculous wins. Listen, the Saints game, I'm still mad about that. I mean, that was the closest thing to, doing a match-fixing investigation on Mark Ingram going out of bounds there for absolutely no reason. But listen, Tom Brady, absolutely clutch when it comes down to it. I'm just not sure that this team, as currently constructed right now, is good enough to beat a upstart Carolina Panthers team that everyone had written off 8 weeks ago and is now right in the middle of it. Fascinating matchup, Jake. Interested on your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I actually I watched a handful of that Lions Panthers game last week, and Panthers just gashed them up. I know you mentioned that when we talked.
Never seen bigger holes in my life.
That Panther, it was crazy. it looked like college football. Like it was just like 50-yard gain after like 50-yard gain. And I was like, oh my gosh, they cannot stop the run. Yeah, and I think I remember the previous Tampa Panthers game was kind of similar. I think the Panthers kind of gashed Tampa up a little bit. So yeah, I have a hard time also taking the points with Tampa Bay right now. I was on the Cardinals last week, and they covered no problem. And it's just one of those scenarios where it's like you want to, as a Patriots fan and a former Tom Brady fan, you want to believe that Tom's going to make some magic happen, and he has. I mean, if you look at the Saints game, like you mentioned, or the Cardinals game, but you're making magic against teams that like you should be killing, right? Exactly. I think they were over a touchdown favorite last week in that Cardinals game. So yeah, it's hard to lay points with Tampa right now in a divisional matchup where we know Carolina kind of took the boots to them last time. I think this is one where you probably can safely take Carolina, and even if Tampa wins, it's probably going to be in a close game.
Yeah, listen, Tampa's not blowing anybody out these days. So,
No.
I mean, laying points with Tampa, I think, is tough. If you do think that Tom's going to get it done, jump on the money line, absolutely. Money line, actually, in this game on the Tampa side of things, or sorry, on the Carolina side of things right now, is plus 137. And I can see that making it into a couple money line parlays. But I'm getting points in 3 games, as I mentioned. Chicago +6, Carolina that we just talked about +3, Houston +4. And then the final week, and Jake, this team right now for me is pretty much an auto bet, is the San Francisco 49ers. And this number was 10, got it at 9.5 last night. Just looking at right now, it is still 9.5. The Niners are a problem for everybody else in the NFC right now. This defense, Nick Bosa, the way they're playing, I mean, that is the backbone of this club. But maybe what's the most impressive thing, and this all goes to Kyle Shanahan, is that regardless of which quarterback is in, they're showing an affinity to be able to move the football starting on the ground. And it's just opened up and made it a perfect scenario for a guy like Mr. Irrelevant, Brock Purdy, to come in and shine in an opportunity that nobody saw coming earlier this year. And then there's the Raiders. And I mean, the Raiders got that gift win from the Patriots a couple weeks ago. But I think we really saw what the Raiders are last week, putting up only 10 points against the Pittsburgh Steelers, losing it late. And then, of course, what are we going to get out of this team, and how much they even want to play for Josh McDaniels after the way Derek Carr was treated this week? He won't even be with the club. And former Patriot Jarrett Stidham gets the start for the Raiders. I would have liked this number and the Niners, even if Carr was playing. But you add in everything else around this football team right now, the direction of the Niners, which is going here and straight into the tank for the Raiders. Listen, I didn't want to lay double digits, but even on the road, I am big on the Niners. They continue to cover numbers. I think they do it again this week.
Yeah, I was actually hoping Josh McDaniels was going to get fired at some point this season. We need an offensive coordinator bad, but anyways, yeah,
they
no,
always come back
Niners,
to Foxborough once they get fired.
The Niners have been so fun to watch, especially the last 5 or 6 weeks, and Purdy's really just fit in no problem. I keep looking at their Super Bowl number, like I'm gonna have to bet this at some point. Like I keep waiting. I'm waiting. I'm like, is this am I getting value right now? Are the Niners the best team in the NFC? You're gonna argue, obviously, the Eagles, and I've been high on the Eagles all season. But this team, this defense, and the offense, they've been finding ways to score points. The McCaffrey factor has been such a different aspect to what they have, and Kittle's kind of coming to full form, and Ayuk's been really good, and I think Debo is kind of on a path to get back here soon. So I don't know. They're definitely a problem. And like you said, that defense is, they kind of go as the defense goes, and that defense has been stellar. Like they are working. It's like I know it's like a cliche, like cheesy kind of thing, but it's like art, like watching a painter. That's what the defense looks like. They're all in sync, and they're all going for the football. They're hungry on the ball, and I don't know. It's super impressive. I'm with you. I love the Niners, and like it's hard laying those big numbers, those big spreads, but how can you not when this team just kills everybody? They don't allow any points against a guy who hasn't played a snap really all season. I don't know if Stidham's been in the game, but if he has, he hasn't been in there for long. Yeah, I love the Niners, and it's hard to bet against them right now, in any sense.
You know, just looking at them, of course, they did get lit up by my guy Mahomes, and I mean that win in San Francisco looks even more impressive now when you see what's happened since then. 8 straight wins after the Chiefs went into Santa Clara and dropped 44 on the 49ers. And listen, they've been covering every week. Commanders by 17 last week. They covered the 7 against the Seahawks the week before. Crushed Tampa Bay. I mean, this is a perfect example of why I'm so out on Tampa. When they actually played a real team, they got absolutely humiliated, 38-35-7. I think they have covered at least 6 straight games and probably 8 in a row now. I'm just not sure whether that Chargers game 7 weeks ago, they ended up winning by 6. I can't remember what the number was. Anyways, the Niners are the real deal right now. And you just sort of mentioned those Super Bowl odds. Just pulled it up right now. Bills are still the favorite at plus 335. Chiefs next at plus 475. The San Francisco 49ers are at 5-1, just like the Philadelphia Eagles, who had been everybody's pick in the NFC for the better part of this season. Listen, I think that would be a great NFC championship game. And with all due respect to the Dallas Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings, I really do think that that is what we're going to be seeing. So we've got the picks. I'll flash them up. I've got a very special graphic made up for this. We'll show you in a moment. But let's get to the partner parlay because we've touched on a few of these games already. Dusty's pick of Miami +3. We're going to tease that. We're going to take the extra half point. And this is something that we have been really successful with this year in the lock shop with the partner parlay, getting an extra half point on some key numbers. With the generous number that we've been getting from Coolbet, in a lot of ways, it's like we're getting a free half point here and there. And listen, in this divisional game, we went through Miami and New England with the situation going into this weekend. I really do think that this is going to be a close game. So if we can get 3.5 with the Miami Dolphins, that's where we're going to start this. So Dusty's pick of Miami with the extra half point, Miami +3.5. And we're going to do the exact same thing with the Carolina Panthers. We just sort of rolled it out. This game should be tight. Tampa Bay hasn't been running away from anyone. I think that this game is winnable for the Panthers. But certainly if we're talking about getting down to crunch time with it being a field goal game on either side, with the extra half point, I think we should be good with Carolina. So we're going to do the exact same thing. This is a 3-point spread. We're going to get it to 3.5. So Carolina +3.5, Miami +3.5. And we're going to get an extra 1.5 on the Chicago Bears, Jake. And listen, I mean, I really like that number at 6, but considering we've got a little bit of wiggle room, and most importantly, we want to get the dub with this game to keep the parlay alive, we're going to take this one to 7.5. So we've got more than a touchdown with the Bears against the Lions and that extra half point in the 2 field goal games with the Dolphins and Panthers. So getting points in all 3 games, 3.5 with Miami and Carolina, 7.5 with the Bears. And all things considered, I think we got a juicy number on this one at +400.
Yeah, and you know what? And you look at all 3 of those games, all 3 divisional games, right? And divisional games, they always seem to play a little bit tighter, right? And so you're getting a dog in all 3 divisional games at +400. Obviously, you guys put it together, but it looks pretty good this week. And I think you guys are due, right? I think it's been a couple weeks now, or
it's been a couple weeks. We had, I mean, man, the first 10 or 11 weeks of the season, we were almost batting close to 50% on this.
Right.
So we had a couple ones that didn't go well. We're over, I think, 2 weeks ago. So yes, we definitely are due to get back on it. Love these picks. We've sort of gone through these games already, but right now at the Coolbet exclusives, Dolphins +3.5, Bears +7.5, Panthers +3.5. We got it up to 4-1 +400. That is this week's Lock Shop Partner Parlay. Before we go and get to some bowl picks, got to talk about this Monday nighter. And I can tell you, Dusty and I are both on the same side. We like Cincinnati +1.5. Now, full disclosure, this might be a little bit more of a heart pick coming from a Chiefs fan because we need the Bills to lose a game of these final 2 games. If they win this, I'll be the biggest Patriots fan around come week 18 for you making that trip down to Buffalo. But this game is going to be, I think, everything that we're hoping for. The total is 49.5, which is a real high number for one of these December games. I'm not sure that it's high enough right now, Jake. And, you know, of the bets, if I was just placing one wager, I think we're going to have some fun and go with the over 49.5. And as I said, take this for what it's worth, and then kind of we'll see what happens as we get closer to the game. But making the pick right now, I am going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals. I really like what their defense has done, albeit they had a real let up last week in the second half against the New England Patriots. But usually they're the team that takes over in the second half of games, and they've done that quite consistently all year long. Listen, this is no disrespect to Buffalo. If they won this game, wouldn't surprise me at all. Certainly not one of the stronger plays, but we're going to take Cincy +1.5 and then jump on that over 49.5. Any leans on the Monday nighter at this point?
I mean, I so badly want this game to go over, Huss. Like, if you don't bet the over, you don't like fun. This is the perfect game where we're set up to finally hit and smash an over. You know, like 49.5. This should be 60. You know, like because we're due for one of those. We always end up getting and maybe it's not necessarily late in the season, but we always do end up getting some sort of primetime game that where it's like, oh, sharps are on the under, and it just goes like 65 points, and they're just scoring touchdowns left and right. That's what I want. I want it. That's what I want. So I'll probably bet it, and I don't know, maybe we're suckers, Huss, but it does feel like that's the fun bet for sure.
All right, so if you missed it, folks, here's our high-tech lock shop, graphics. There you go. The picks.
Pretty good glare on that one.
And there's at the bottom, MNF, Cincy.
Well, that's how you know you weren't just making shit up as you go, Huss. You had it all written down.
Oh, listen, this is a professional operation here, Jake. What are we talking about? Okay, so this is the NFL weekend, but we're far from done because we are right into the middle of bowl season, and this weekend is going to be great. Listen, I'll be honest, I am not as into it as you. I mean, I've been watching a bunch of the games. I've made the odd bet. But the games that I really pay attention to are part of the college football playoff. And man, do we have a couple great ones coming up this weekend. You got Ohio State and Georgia, TCU and Michigan. Michigan Wolverines, 7.5-point favorites in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. And then Georgia, 6.5-point favorites is the number one team going up against Ohio State. Just quick thoughts on those games, and if you got a lean on either side.
Yeah. I took Michigan to win it all because I thought they were the best value on the board. Because I think Georgia, Ohio State could be a bloodbath. I think really anyone could win that game. Even though I was looking at some stats yesterday, Georgia is unbelievably better than every other team in college football. It's crazy. Like the red zone efficiency on offense is the best in football. The red zone efficiency on defense is the best in football. It's crazy what they've been able to do this season. So as much, I think Ohio State probably keeps it close. They probably stay within that. What's it, 6.5 now? So it's starting to kind of move that way. Probably want to get on it sooner rather than later. But I think that Michigan line's come down. I think it was 9.5 when it opened, like way, way long ago. Now it's down to 7.5. I do tend to lean Michigan. They tend to be that second half, especially fourth quarter team. They have just been locking down on defense in the fourth quarter and just kind of shoving the ball down teams' throats in the run game. So I probably end up taking Michigan, especially the numbers getting better if that's the side you want. Now I'm probably buying down to 7 and I'm getting a touchdown, maybe even 6.5, depending on what that looks like. Let's see. So we
7's minus 122 so right now.
Minus 122. That's not too bad. I don't mind taking a little juice and getting a nice clean 7. So if they do happen to win, you get the push. You win by a touchdown, they get a push. I don't know. I just think they're better than TCU. TCU coming off a tough loss to Kansas State in the I think it was the Big 12 championship. Yep. And I think it's just I think Michigan flexes their muscles, and I think it's time for Harbaugh to be like, all right, like we're going to a natty and we're gonna make some noise here, and this is a perfect team to do it against. I think they have the easier path to get there. Like I said, the Georgia Ohio State game could go either way, even though Georgia is a better team on paper. So yeah, I'm gonna ride with Michigan. I think probably, like you said, probably buy down to the 7. But what I've been doing with these games, I like to wait till about an hour before kickoff because a lot of the information you don't get until the last hour, last 30 minutes. So I definitely wait if I'm public better. I just wait on this, wait to see where it goes. But I do lean Michigan. Like I said, try to get a better number, maybe 6.5, 7. And I think Ohio State, now the way it keeps going kind of towards Ohio State side might be maybe, even though I said wait, might be time to get on them now before it gets to a 6 or even a 5.5, maybe.
Well, looking ahead to the championship game right now, obviously there's just 4 teams left. Georgia is minus 137 to win it all. Michigan is plus 275, Ohio State 4-1, and TCU 17-1 plus 1700. I'll say this without really any skin in the game right now. I hope Michigan wins because I think that if Michigan wins the national championship, then Harbaugh will feel mission accomplished and come back to the National Football League. And listen, he's just such a wild character. We miss him on Sundays in the NFL right now. And I think there's a better chance of him making the move if they actually win the whole thing, considering the long climb they've had, getting abused by Ohio State each and every year, getting over the hump last year to now be on the precipice of completing the job.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a ton of bowl games on today. I think we just started the first one. Maryland started at noon. So me, Patty, and our loyalty manager are riding Maryland right now in the Mayo Bowl. I can see the boys texting me as we speak here.
Oh, the
So
Duke's Mayo Bowl, of course.
yeah,
That's when the coach gets covered in mayo, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah. Usually they ask the coaches if they're okay with it, and they kind of got to agree to it. So yeah, Patty and like I said, our new loyalty manager Shane, we're all on Maryland right now at noon. So kind of got a noon sweat, and then on to 2 o'clock. I think Pittsburgh and UCLA are going to play. So
Yeah, that's the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl in El Paso, Texas.
Barstool Bowl today too, us.
I was just about to get. So what do we got? We got South Carolina and Notre Dame in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl in Jacksonville. Notre Dame's 4-point favorites. And yes, the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl down in Houston, Ohio, -2.5 against Wyoming. And of course, what's interesting about this for CFL fans, and it's too bad Dusty's not here to talk about it. Curtis Rourke, the quarterback for Ohio, is, of course, the brother of BC Lions phenom Nathan Rourke. And man, he's had a great season so far and has a really bright future. I think I'll just be riding Ohio just for those Canadian connections and roots to have a little skin in the game for what will be a fun game. And I know the show that the Barstool gang will put on around it should be quite entertaining as well.
If you're a fan of those guys, getting Big Cat on the call with Dave, and it's quite the experience. I watched they had a little college basketball tournament earlier this season with a couple games, and it was
now is this one on TV or is it all
no, they have their own. It's barstool.tv. So yeah, they have their own little streaming service that they run themselves.
So Wyoming, Ohio, that game is going to get going at I guess 3:30 here, 4:30 Eastern time, and then we got one more game tonight. And just get your thoughts on this one before we go. Clemson and Tennessee. Tennessee had that great run early on. We thought that they would be part of the college football playoff. They're not, and now they're 5-point underdogs to Dabo and the Clemson Tigers.
Yeah, it's funny. The two starting quarterbacks that started for both these teams are no longer starting in this game. Trying to think of the names. Hendon Hooker was the former Tennessee quarterback. I don't know who the backup is there. Cade Klubnik, I think, is the new starter for
great
Clemson.
name.
Great name. Yeah. The other QB is no longer starting. DJ Uiagalelei, or something crazy like that. This is why I'm not on the call. Clearly, folks.
But you can tell that you've watched a lot of college football. The fact that you could even attempt that one just off the top of your head is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no, that'll be an interesting game for sure. Like I said, most of these I'm betting kind of maybe 30 minutes before kickoff. I have been tweeting them out. If anyone does want to go check those out, I think I'm, like I said, 15-13 through like 28 games. We're coming up on like 30 picks here, so I think it'll end probably close to 40 when it's all said and done.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to this game tonight, but really fired up for Week 17 in the National Football League. Good luck to everyone that's still alive in fantasy. Sucks if you had Derrick Henry starting. Hopefully you found an adequate backup. And of course, we'll be back with regular lock shops throughout next week. I'm not sure when Dusty's back. We might do something special for the Monday Nighter, but the picks are in right now. Cincinnati home dog plus 1.5. And of course, we got to get the over in this one, 49.5. And it should be a great one, Jake. Thanks so much for doing this. It was great. You know, we spent so much time together banging out those winners in the Doha double, then back for the holidays. But it was great to get back. And I know from Coolbet and us at the Lock Shop, a big happy New Year to everyone. We got to finish strong and then get ready to get into 2023 on a bit of a heater.
Yeah, so far, I mean, 2023, I'm 0-0, undefeated. So we'll see how Sunday kicks things off for all of us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I honestly have had, I think, the best year ever. And I think I'm still clicking for all the public picks that we've given out on the Lock Shop, about 63% for the year. So I'll tell you what, if we can finish strong for one final week, get a winner with the partner parlay, would be a nice little cherry on what's been a great year for us and, of course, for the Lock Shop as well. Folks, get over to the Coolbet exclusives, plus 400 right now on the Lock Shop partner parlay, with Carolina and Miami both plus 3.5 and the Chicago Bears plus 7.5 at plus 400. And Jake, let's get some winners this weekend. Enjoy, and we'll have to get the whole gang back together when Patty's back and Dusty's back as we get ready for some NFL playoffs in the Lock Shop coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, Huss. This was great. And we'll catch up soon in the new year.
You got it. Folks, don't forget coolbet.com. All the odds there. Lock Shop Partner Parlay in the Coolbet exclusives. Good luck. Thanks for being with us. And we'll see you next week when the big guy's back to get ready for the final week of NFL action and a look ahead to the playoffs.
You know what it is, Huss? Incentive week. Incentive week. Got to check out those incentives.
Props.
Who needs the catches?
Great
All
call.
right.
Good luck, everyone. Have a great weekend and Happy New Year.